Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Dear students, I, Dr. Shivang Patel, Associate Professor from School of Computer Science, welcome you all from Chaitanya Studio of Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. Now, in the lecture series of Python programming, in previous session, we have discussed various types of arguments that are passing in the function. We have discussed two arguments with example. Now, in today's session, we are continuing with more two types, right? So, we have already discussed positional arguments and second is keyword arguments. Now, remaining two, that is default arguments and variable arguments, that we will see in today's session. So, what is default argument? Suppose whenever you are defining the function at that time, some value you are defining at that time. So, whenever the function call happens, so that value will be considered because you have passed already at the time of definition. But if you are not passing the value, in that case what happened? Whatever the value entered by the user, that will be considered as a new value, right? We will see this with the help of one demonstration. So, you can see on your screen, we have defined one function multiplication, that is multiply. Here in this function, two parameters we are passing, number 1 and number 2. Here number 2 that we are defining with the default value 10. Now, this function is execute and it will return the value of multiplication of two numbers, right? Now, we are taking two values from the user A and B. We are calling with the help of function call, that say for example result equal to multiply A. So, here in the function call we are passing only one value, that is A. So, what happened? The another value that will be taken for number 2, that is 10, we have already defined in the function definition, right? So, the result will be accordingly. In the next statement, we are passing two arguments. You can observe on the screen, that is result equal to multiply A comma B. So, A and B, both the value that will be taken from the user. So, here the value B that will be overwritten. So, whatever the value we are defining default in the definition, that will be neglected and the new value that will be considered, right? So, this way you can also pass the default value in the parameter. Now, the next is variable length argument. Say for example, in all previous programs we have seen, you can know or you should know number of arguments. But suppose in some of the cases you are not knowing how many arguments that you want to pass in the function call, right? So, this can be also possible with the help of variable length arguments. Here basically two things that you have to consider. Basically asterisk args, that is for known keyword arguments, that is positional arguments as we have already discussed. But here total number of arguments that are not fixed. So, you can pass any of the sequence. Say for example, you can pass tuple here for passing the parameters or passing the values, and second is kargs double asterisk. You can say that for keyword arguments, here you can use the sequence called dictionary, just like dictionary, that means the key and the value pair you can pass here. So, ultimately the concept is that if you are not knowing the total number of arguments and runtime you want to define that what is the total number of argument, in that case you can use this variable length argument concept. So, in the first concept you are using the positional parameters in which you are not defining the keyword, and the second one you are representing the values in the form of keywords. So, in the first case you are using the tuple, in the second case you are using the dictionary, just like the call by reference, right, that you are using in any of the programming languages. So, it will take arbitrary keyword argument and accept multiple keyword arguments as a directory. We will see with the program one demonstration. Here you can see add number, that is our function name, asterisk args, args only it is the variable name, it is not fixed to use this variable name. You can use any of the valid identifier here. Yes, asterisk, that is mandatory because you are defining here some variable argument, that's why. Then after, some inbuilt function we are using because we are passing the arguments or the values in the form of tuples. So you can observe here, add numbers, you are passing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it is in the parenthesis. So we are passing the tuples. So here 5 values that can be added with the help of inbuilt function, that is sum function. In the very next statement, you can observe the values can be changed. So the tuple can be changed, number of arguments can be changed. So accordingly, the sum can be done and you will get the result, right? So this way you can pass positional parameters or different number of arguments here with the help of concept variable argument and asterisk. Another example you can see here, that is for the keyword arguments, right? So here you can use the concept called dictionary. As you already aware, in the dictionary data structure, the two things that can be used, one is key and one is value. So always the values are in the pair. So if you want to define variable argument in the terms of keywords, here you are using the structure dictionary. So we have defined one variable, print student detail. Here asterisk, 2 asterisk, that is compulsory, and KWARGS, that is only for your knowledge purpose that we are using the keyword argument. You can use any of the valid identifier name here. Then after, for loop we are using here key comma value, because whatever the value you are passing, it is in the form of dictionary. So you are passing here key as well as the value, and whatever the value you are passing, you want to print. Here 3 variables we are defining, name, age and city. We are taking the values from the user, that's why we are using here inbuilt function input. And in the print statement, all 3 values that we are going to print, right? So every time the value will be taken from the user and it will be passed to the function call, right? Whenever the function call happens, it will pass to the function definition, and here again you observe that the number of arguments that are variable, and it is not positional because we are passing the keyword, right? Keyword in the sense whatever the value that can stored in some variable name, and we are passing here 2 things, one is key and one is value. So this way you can use variable argument. So these 4 types of arguments that we have already discussed. Now the next concept is anonymous or the lambda function. You can say that if the function you are defining with no name, right, or unnamed function, that is called lambda function or anonymous. The concept come if you want to pass the function as a parameter in another function, in that case you are using this anonymous function or the lambda function. Some of the points that you have to remember while using this lambda function, first of all the syntax. The normal function that will define with the keyword def, but the lambda function that will define with the keyword lambda, because this lambda function that you are passing as an argument to the other function, right? Then after, whatever the parameters that you have to define, that is variable names, you can pass one parameter, one variable or multiple variable, they are separated by comma. Then after colon sign you have to put, and then after the expression. Expression, that is nothing but the logic that you want to apply to execute here in the function, right? Based on that logic, which value will be defined, that will be considered, right? Remember one thing, whenever you are using the lambda function, it is limited to only single expression. That means whatever the logic that you are going to apply, that is only single, it cannot be allowed multiple here. So you can see this with the help of example. Suppose square, that is the variable, we are defining the function lambda with the keyword lambda, x, that is only single variable, then after colon. After colon, we are applying the logic here x into x. So whenever the user enters the value x, the square that will be calculated and it will be fetched as well as the passed whenever the function call will happen. So result equal to square number. So whatever the number that will be defined or entered by the user, that number here in our example 6, that will be passed to the lambda function. So 6 into 6, 36, that will be again stored and it will be returned to that particular result, and we are printing that result here 36. Second, on the right hand side, second example, if you want to pass multiple parameters, in the previous example we have seen only single value x, but here you are passing two values x and y. The logic is there, x, if x greater than y, that means x greater than y, this condition is satisfied, then whatever the result that we want to print, that is x, and if the this condition is not satisfied, so else part y will be executed. So here two values you are entering from the user. Whenever you are passing this value at the function call greater, so it will pass here both the values, number 1 that will be assigned to x, number 2 that will be assigned to y, and it will check with the logic x greater than y, and accordingly you will see both the scenario of the result. So this way you can use the lambda function, and it is also called anonymous function because the function is no name, or you can say that the function that can be passed in the form of parameter to the another function, right. Now the next is recursive function. So the function calls itself, that is called the recursive function. This concept is same as in any other programming languages. So here basically two part that you have to consider, one is base case, another is recursive case. Now base case only for that purpose, if you want to stop execution of recursive function, that you have to mention the condition. So that condition that will be represented that is base case, and the recursive case, that means the function calls itself. So here the actual logic of the function that you have to define, in which one function that calls itself again and again. So these two portions are there, one is base case in which you can define the termination criteria, and second one is recursive case in which you are defining whatever the logic of the recursive function. So you can see on your screen the example is given to find out the GCD, that is greatest common divisor. So here in the base case you are mentioning the condition where to terminate this whole execution or this recursive function. So if the number 2 double equals to 0, in that case you have to stop the execution of your code. In the recursive case you have to define the actual logic. So every time you have to check with the help of modulo function, you have to minimize your criteria to find out the GCD, and at the end when the condition terminates you can get the result of greatest common divisor. So multiple other examples are also there in which you can call the function or the function can call itself. You can observe here on the screen return GCD. So in the return statement again we are calling this function, that's why the function calls itself. That is the concept of recursion that can be used in the Python. Now the next is scope of the variable. So basically you already aware two types of scopes are there that will define the lifetime of that particular variable. One is local and one is global. So if the function definition contains any of the variable, then it is the local scope. That means what? That variable that can be used within only that function body. If you try to execute that particular local variable outside this function body, then compiler will give you error message, right? And second one is global variable. So normally it can be defined at the beginning of any of the program, and it can be used in any of the function that can be used within the program. You can say that global variable you can use outside the function also, right? And the local variable that can be used within that function body only. We will see with the help of one example. Here number equal to 15, that is the global variable that we have defined, that can be used in whatever the functions that can be used within this program. But you can observe here one function, that is print num, that we have defined. Here again num variable we have used, the same variable name but the value is 10. So here value 10, that is local to that particular function only. The scope is only within that function. If you are trying to use that variable outside the function, it is not allowed, and whatever the variable globally defined, that can be accessible to the outside function also, right. So now we are concluding our session. In today's session, we have discussed whatever the remaining types of arguments that can be used in the Python programming. We have also discussed one important concept, that is anonymous function or the lambda function. We have also discussed recursion in the Python programming, right. Now in next subsequent session, we will come with one more advanced features of Python. Till then, keep coding, keep learning, happy learning. Thank you.